Today's video is about a book called Bloodlines of the Illuminati by author Fritz Springmeier. Here's a fascinating fact about this book. You can download it from the Central Intelligence Agency's website. You might be asking yourself, why in the world would the CIA have Springmeier's book on its website, available for anyone to download and read for free? The following information comes from the website of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, or DNI. On this website, there's a section called Bin Laden's Bookshelf. This is a direct quote from the website. In the weeks following the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, by United States forces, U.S. intelligence community analysts sifted through the recovered digital and hard copy materials in search of clues that would reveal ongoing al-Qaeda plots, identities and locations of al-Qaeda personnel, and other information of immediate importance. On May 20th, 2015, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a sizable number of documents recovered from the compound used to hide Osama bin Laden. On March 1st, 2016, the ODNI released a second trove of materials gleaned from the Abbottabad raid. On January 19, 2017, the ODNI released the final group of documents. These releases, which followed a rigorous interagency review, align with the President's call for increased transparency, consistent with national security prerogatives, and the 2014 Intelligence Authorization Act, which required the ODNI to conduct a review of the documents for release. Editor's note: after the raid on Abbottabad, an interagency task force worked 24/7 to identify which of the recovered materials presented intelligence value. Once the task force pinpointed which materials were most useful to the intelligence community, they produced intelligence cables that were shared throughout the intelligence community. The underpinning materials, hundreds of documents that informed those cables, were then reviewed for declassification and public release. All interagency declassification reviews of the Abbottabad materials were scoped specifically to this distilled set of materials, those with intelligence value, as opposed to the entire trove recovered at Abbottabad. Career intelligence professionals executed this interagency effort with CIA as executive agent. On November 1st, 2017, CIA released nearly 470,000 files that included draft versions of items previously reviewed, as well as other correspondence and materials outside the scope of previous declassification reviews. Listed on this website, where you can go to Bin Laden's bookshelf, are 39 English language books. Among these are some very interesting titles, and I'm going to list a few of them that I have read myself. The Best Enemy Money Can Buy by Anthony Sutton, Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, Conspirators' Hierarchy, The Committee of 300 by John Coleman, Project MK Ultra, the CIA's program of research in behavioral modification that came from the joint hearing before the Select Committee on Intelligence and the Subcommittees on Health and Scientific Research of the Committee of Human Resources in the United States Senate from the 95th Congress, first session, August 3rd, 1977, in the United States Congress, Select Committee on Intelligence. The next book was The Secret Teaching of All Ages by Manly Palmer Hall, written in 1928. Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins, and, of course, Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier. So, who is Fritz Springmeier? Springmeier was born Victor E. Schoof on September 24, 1955. He has written a number of books exposing the New World Order agenda. His main thesis is that a global elite group of people, connected by satanic bloodlines, are and have been conspiring for many years to dominate the world. In the introduction to the book, self-published as a public domain PDF in 1995, Fritz says to his readers, quote, "I am pleased and honored to present this book to those in the world who love the truth. This is a book for lovers of the truth. This is a book for those who are already familiar with my past writings. An Illuminati Grand Master once said that the world is a stage and we are all actors. Of course, this was not an original thought, but it certainly is a way of describing the Illuminati view of how the world works." He continues, "I am not a conspiracy theorist. I deal with real facts, not theory. Some of the people I write about I have met. Some of the people I expose are alive and very dangerous. The darkness has never liked the light. Yet, many of the secrets of the Illuminati are locked up tightly simply because secrecy is a way of life." Springmeier has no qualms about revealing his commitment to Christianity. As a matter of fact, he credits his deep faith as the reason he does not live in fear. He says though he intends to identify individuals by name in his book, by no means is he calling for a witch hunt. He also states that this book is not about a theory. It is about the secret, occult oligarchies which rule the world. I don't ask that you take my word. Investigate for yourself and discover the power that secret societies exercise from behind the scenes. Springmeier's thesis, in short, that the Illuminati are generational satanic bloodlines which have gained a tremendous amount of power in the world, and he describes them as, quote, Satan's elite. In 1991, Springmeier self-published a predecessor book called Be Wise as Serpents, in which he exposes the names of the top 13 bloodline families. Subsequently, he began publishing a series of newsletters in order to continue his research. Bloodlines of the Illuminati is a collection of articles he wrote between 1991 and 1995 about these top families. Springmeier credits several authors for inspiring him as he carried out his work. These include Edith Starr Miller, author of Occult Theocracy, and Alexander Hislop, author of The Two Babylons. The latter book, Springmeier says, helped him to see the connection between the ancient occultism of the mystery religions and modern-day religion. A third book, he says, inspired him was Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and its sequel, The Messianic Legacy, which provided valuable information on the 13th bloodline. In the earlier Be Wise as Serpents book, Springmeier says that delving into the question of who controls the world was like peeling back the layers of an onion. He writes that the elites, whose motives are not benevolent, make up an oligarchy that stretches all across the world. The power of this oligarchy is passed down generationally, and it resides in bloodlines that preserve occult knowledge and authority and keep it for themselves. The word occult means hidden. He writes in Be Wise as Serpents that the important bloodlines that wield this power include, and this is his list, the Jewish bloodline of the Priori de Sion, which starts with the tribe of Dan and extends through the Merovingian dynasty and into the Habsburg royalty. The bloodlines of the leaders of the Latter-day Saints and RLDS churches go back to the bloodline of the Priori de Sion, the Merovingians. The bloodlines of the 13 Illuminati families. The bloodlines of the Hasidic Jewish messiahs that began their religious reigns in Poland among the Ashkenazim. The bloodlines of the Babylonian Talmudic Jews. The bloodlines of the successors of the Messiah, the bloodline of the Sufi leadership. The bloodlines of the Knights of Malta, which are the aristocratic royal bloodlines. The bloodlines of the descendants of William of Orange and those who helped him conquer England. And lastly, the bloodlines of the 13 Illuminati families that have ties to the 13 families mentioned above. In the book Bloodlines of the Illuminati, self-published in 1995, he explains the etiology of the 13 bloodlines as follows, quote, "In mockery and imitation of God's 12 tribes, Satan blessed 12 bloodlines. One of these bloodlines was the Ishmaeli bloodline, from which a special elite line developed alchemy, assassination techniques, and other occult practices. One bloodline was Egyptian, Celtic, Druidic, from which Druidism developed. One bloodline was in the Orient and developed Oriental magic. One lineage was from Canaan and the Canaanites. It had the name Astarte, then Astorga, then Ashdor, and then Astor. The tribe of Dan was used as a Judas Iscariot type seed. The royalty of the tribe of Dan have descended down through history as a powerful satanic bloodline. The 13th or final bloodline was copied after God's royal lineage of Jesus. This was the satanic house of David, with their blood, which they believe is not only from the house of David, but also from the lineage of Jesus, who they claim had a wife and children. The 13th satanic bloodline was instilled with the direct seed of Satan, so that they would not only carry Christ's blood, but also the blood of his brother, Lucifer." And he continues, "One of the bloodlines goes back to Babylon and are descended from Nimrod. Down through the years, the occult world has remained hidden from the history books. Publishing and education have been controlled privileges. They have ruled behind the scenes. The mystery religions each had their secret councils which ruled them, and these councils themselves came under the guidance of a secret, supreme, grand council or governing body. The mystery religions in turn ruled the masses and the political leaders. When this is him talking now, first began investigating the Illuminati, a clear picture developed that the history books were doctored and that great power was concentrated in the hands of the oligarchies of the world. But who were these powerful people? If there is a conspiracy, who are the conspirators? That is what this book is about." End quote. According to Springmeier, the 13 families or bloodlines form a hierarchy of control. 5 of the families are the inside core of the 13. In the book, he discusses the 13 families first and then adds in 4 additional families that have significant ties to the Illuminati. The 13 families are 1, the Astor family, 2, the Bundy family, 3, the Collins bloodline, 4, the DuPonts, 5, the Freeman bloodline, 6, the Kennedy family, 7, the Lee family, 8, the Onassis bloodline, 9, the Rockefeller bloodline, 10, the Rothschild bloodline, 11, the Russell bloodline, 12, the Van Dyne bloodline, and 13, the Merovingian bloodline. And then the additional families are 14, the Disney bloodline, 15, the Reynolds bloodline, 16, the McDonald bloodline, and 17, the Krupps bloodline. Springmeier begins with the Astor family. The original founder of the Astor fortune was John Jacob Astor, 1763 to 1884, who was born in Waldorf, Germany from a Jewish bloodline, though these origins have been hidden. John Jacob Astor immigrated to America in 1784, and it is said he was penniless when he arrived. Astor was a master of Masonic Lodge number 8. He rose to prominence when President Jefferson and his Secretary of State, Gallatin, granted Astor a special government privilege. The U.S. government had placed an embargo on all U.S. ships from sailing with goods in 1807, but Astor was given permission to sail his ship with its cargo. As a result, he made huge profits, unlike other American shippers who suffered from the War of 1812. Astor also worked together with a man named George Clinton, an Illuminati member, on land deals. It is possible Astor was acting as a British secret agent. Astor also got involved in the North American fur trade from 1817 to 1834 and made tremendous profits from a monopoly after successfully pushing out his competition. The fur company he created led to the founding of Astoria, Oregon. Springmeier mentions that Astoria has become in present times a hotbed for secret satanic covens in Oregon. Another venture that proved enormously profitable for Astor was his participation in the opium trade. though he quit the business in 1818. Springmeyer quotes John Coleman, author of the book Conspirators' Hierarchy, The Story of the Committee of 300, as saying, quote, John Jacob Astor made a huge fortune out of the China opium trade. It was the Committee of 300 who chose who would be allowed to participate in the fabulously lucrative China opium trade, though the monopolistic British East India Company and the beneficiaries of their largesse remained forever wedded to the Committee of 300, end quote. After this endeavor, Astor became a banker and sat on the board of 5 directors of the new national bank that Alexander Hamilton created for the U.S. government. Astor owned a large share of the stock of this Bank of the United States. He was also a Freemason and held key positions in that organization. By this time, Astor was one of the richest men in the United States, and this wealth was passed down to his descendants. Though the Astors made their fortune in the New York area, they eventually relocated to England. However, Springmeyer says they continue to wield great financial power in the United States through various proxies. Springmeyer reports that by the late 1800s, the various branches of the Illuminati began to reconfigure themselves and set up innocent-sounding cover organizations behind which to hide the higher levels. Around 1910, the Round Table groups were created in Britain. Cecil Rhodes and Alfred Lord Milner created these groups, who were written about by Professor Carroll Quigley in his famous book, Tragedy and Hope. And the Astors provided financial backing to these groups. Rhodes and Milner were key players in setting up the Society of the Elect, a super-secret top circle of the Illuminati. In 1919, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, or RIIA, was created, and the Astors provided financial backing once again. The RIAA is the British equivalent to the American Council on Foreign Relations, or CFR. In the next installment of this video, I will talk about the next bloodline family, which is the Bundy bloodline, and continue on to talk about the rest of the families that Springmeyer names, including those who have ties to the 13 families. See you next time. Thanks for watching.